Good evening and welcome to the Council meeting. I'm Councillor Tom Bennett, the Mayor. In June 2017, 72 of our residents tragically lost their lives in the fire at Grenfell Tower. I ask every member of the Council to pay our deepest and continuing respects in the conventional manner by marking the moment with 72 seconds silence. Would everyone please stand? Thank you. Please be seated. Item 1. The minutes of the previous meeting have been circulated. Are they agreed as a correct record? Item 2. Does any member wish to declare a disclosable pecuniary or any other significant interest in any item being considered at tonight's meeting? No. Item 3. I'm pleased to announce that His Majesty the King has recognised the following in his birthday honours. Professor Vernon Gibson at Imperial College received a knighthood. Timothy Reeve of the Victoria and Albert Museum was awarded a CBE. Professor David Daffyd Thomas of Imperial College was awarded the OBE. John Amphlett, Kensington and Chelsea Support Group, Parkinson's UK, and Marcus Wolfgang Hall, Scout Leader of the 9th Chelsea and the 10th and 11th Chelsea Scout Groups, were each awarded the BEM, British Empire Medal. So, many congratulations to them. Item 4. Chief Executive, are there any apologies for absence or lateness from this meeting?
Thank you. Yes, I have received apologies from Councillors Adurian, Dentcode, Marshall, Petit, Thalasites, Wade and Ahmed. And I've also received apologies for lateness from Councillor Aretti and Councillor Adam.
And apologies for lateness from Councillor Baldwin.
Sorry. Yeah, is that lateness or absence? Do you know? Not sure. Okay. We'll find out by the end of the meeting.
Apologies for lateness from Councillor McVeigh as well.
Thank you. Item 5. Public speaking. I will invite those who have registered in advance to address the Council in turn for no more than 5 minutes each. A member of the leadership team and member of the principal minority party will then be able to respond for up to 2 minutes each. We have 4 people who have registered to speak. The purpose of this part of the Council meeting is for those who live, work or go to school in the borough to raise issues of local concern, so I'd like to thank the speakers for coming along tonight. For the benefit of members and those watching, can I ask all speakers to start your 5 minutes by saying who you are and if you are speaking on your own behalf or for others. So firstly we have Ms. Cordelia Chembrovitz. Please address the Council.
Thank you. My name's Cordelia Sembrovich, and I am a resident of North Kensington and Kensal House. I'm speaking on behalf of myself and Kensal House Residents Association. I want to speak tonight about how the Council approaches the redevelopment of contaminated land and the vital importance of placing public health and community safety at the centre of those decisions. North Kensington is a community already carrying a heavy burden of environmental injustice. We have some of the worst air quality in the borough. Life expectancy in parts of Notting Dale is significantly lower than elsewhere in RBKC, an average age of 71 for men and 73 for women. Many of our residents are children, older adults, or living with chronic respiratory conditions. These are the very people most vulnerable to environmental harms. Across London, former industrial sites are being brought forward for housing and regeneration. This is a welcome opportunity if done safely, but it also presents a very real risk when the land is contaminated with toxic substances like benzene, cyanide, phenols, and asbestos, as is often the case with former gasworks and industrial sites. Kensal Canalside is one of such sites of particular and serious concern. Remediating sites is complex and long-term work. It can disturb hazardous materials, release toxic dust and vapours into the air, and cause harm if not managed to the highest possible standard. The risks are not theoretical. We've seen them play out elsewhere, from Southall to Silvertown, where communities are exposed to harmful emissions due to poor oversight and weak enforcement. This council has said that Grenfell should never happen again. That must include ensuring no community is exposed to invisible, cumulative environmental harms in the name of progress. So I ask, what policies and safeguards are in place to protect residents when developments occur on contaminated land? Do we, as a borough, require comprehensive and transparent site investigations before any planning permission is granted? Do we require best practice remediation strategies, independently reviewed and publicly available? Do we require real-time, independent air quality monitoring so that any release of hazardous substances can be detected and addressed immediately? Do we require clear, enforceable communication protocols, including public alerts and emergency evacuations in the case of contamination or exposure? Do we require independent oversight with the power to stop work if residents are at risk? These are not just technical issues. They go to the heart of trust and safety and justice. Too often, communities like mine are asked to bear the brunt of uncertainty, to trust that others are making the decisions in our best interests, with little information and less control. This is a borough where planning system has previously failed, where regulatory oversight was found wanting, where the precautionary principles should not be an afterthought, it must be the starting point. We should be setting a gold standard on how contaminated sites are redeveloped. That means putting health first. That means ensuring developments are not just driven solely by profit, but by long-term community well-being. And it means listening to residents, not after the fact, but from the start. Tonight, I ask this council to review its current policies and commitments in this area. Are they strong enough? Are they transparent enough? Are they being enforced with seriousness that the public demand? Because if they're not, the risk is too great and the consequences are too familiar. We all want to see our borough thrive. We want investment. We want to end the housing crisis. We want to see derelict land transformed. But none of that can come at the cost of safety. North Kensington deserves the same protections, the same care, and the same vigilance as any other part of this borough. Thank you.
Councillor Kamali, please respond for up to 2 minutes.
Thank you, Cordelia. I think you summed it up yourself at the end there. Absolutely right. I'm afraid I'm answering on behalf of Councillor Thalasitis tonight, but I'm sure he would absolutely agree with me and to agree with you that, of course, we should make sure that the site there is held to exactly the same standards as anywhere else in the borough. But not only that, Kensington and Chelsea does have very strong land contamination protocols. We have a good team that attach conditions to our planning applications. This scheme itself is obviously a live application as it stands. These are exactly the sorts of things that residents rightly will be asking of our planning committee when it comes later this year. And I think you have a very open door with our planning committee. I think it's perfectly reasonable that we not only sort of hold it to the gold standard, but perhaps even sort of platinum. This is one of the most significant potential developments in London. It is in one of the most significant parts of the country and the city, and it absolutely should be a model for how these things are done. I'm very conscious that we've implemented a number of contamination conditions on schemes around the borough. In fact, I recall just recently a homeowner had to carry out 19 bore samples of the soil in their back garden before they were allowed to commence work. That's well beyond what many other councils will be requiring of residential development. Something of this scale and of this nature should absolutely be able to meet the obligations that you've set out. I think live air quality monitoring, I can't make a decision for the committee, but that sounds completely reasonable. And how they mitigate the contaminants as and when they're uncovered should also be a very important condition. I'm aware that, of course, that site has had a bit of remediation done in years gone by with lorries driving through. Any scheme that were to come forward would involve a huge amount of land sort of collection and removal, and it's something that we will have to make sure that we're monitoring properly. I'm not the technical expert, nor is Councillor Thalasitis, but the officers that we have within the council are, and I think it would be prudent, I think, for them to have a meeting perhaps before a planning committee came forward to make sure that any report that we draft for the scheme includes some of those points.
Kamali.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Lowry, would you like to speak for up to 2 minutes?
Sure. Thank you, Cordelia, for your extremely timely questions. I share your concerns about the entire development, but will focus my response on Canalside House, in particular as it has not garnered enough attention of majority party councillors, and Councillor Kamali didn't respond to that particular aspect of the question. A perusal of the website on Canalside House will bring you to an advertisement notice stating that, quote, Canalside House provides a high-quality, affordable office space and meeting rooms in a supportive environment for voluntary and community organisations. A community of like-minded people working together and a supportive environment that is particularly important for new and small groups to share information and expertise with other community groups, unquote. Before and now after Grenfell, particular members of the council leadership have worked behind the scenes to discuss the sale of our prized asset Canalside House to a private developer, despite the fact that planning officers have themselves stated that demolition of this asset is wholly unnecessary to provide for the Ballymore development of Kensal Canalside, regardless of what one thinks of those proposals. Coupled to the secretive discussions about the sale, the council has imposed a managed decline on the building, such as neglecting the building's upkeep, refusing a charity grant to install a disabled access lift, and cutting off heating to tenants in winter. This is a deliberate measure to deplete the building of community organisations to make any transfer of ownership and subsequent demolition less tricky. Through these measures, the council has clearly violated both the Hillsborough Charter, which commits the council to respond to public scrutiny in an open, honest and transparent way, making full disclosure of relevant documents, materials and facts. It is further a violation of the Charter for Public Participation again. The council must therefore commit to saving Canalside House, recognise it as the asset it always has been, and stand alongside the community to save it.
Thank you, Ms. Sembrovics. Now, Ms. Jessica Jones, please address the council.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor and councillors, for the opportunity to speak to you tonight. I'm here to talk about Athlone Gardens. Athlone Gardens in Golborne Ward was once a much-loved public park with lawns, flower beds, seating, shelter, a ball court, a playground, and 73 mature trees. In 2009, the council approved the redevelopment of this site with a promise that the park would be fully re-provided of equivalent size and built to green flag standard as required in the Warnington Green Supplementary Planning document. 15 years later, that promise remains unfulfilled. The current park is less than half its original size. It floods in winter and becomes parched and cratered in summer. Newly planted trees have died and facilities are inadequate. We still don't know when the park will be completed, and crucially, there is no master plan for the park. Golborne is one of the most deprived and densely populated wards in the UK. It suffers from poor air quality, limited access to green space, and is recognised by the GLA as a priority area for urban canopy cover and greening. The completion of Athlone Gardens Park is not just a planning obligation, it's a matter of health equity and environmental justice. To date, park infrastructure has been delivered piecemeal by the developer, without public visibility, coordination or oversight. Drainage is absent and soil quality is poor. That's why nothing grows. Minimal thought has been given to paving, seating, planting, fencing and the placement of trees. There is no landscaping or terraforming. Facilities such as fitness equipment, ball sports provision, shelter, water fountains, toilets, or community gathering space seem to have been entirely left off the table. The result is not a park, but a disconnected series of assets lacking cohesion, resilience, or imagination. In response to growing public dissatisfaction, the Council met with residents in 2023-24 and committed to a community co-design process to create a master plan for the final park. A steering group was proposed and expressions of interest were submitted. Then, the steering group was peremptorily abandoned before it was even formed, citing insufficient interest. This was despite 4 confirmed applicants and clear community design for a proper co-design process. RBKC is now proceeding to commission designs before residents have had any meaningful role in shaping the brief or establishing the park's priorities. This is not co-design, it is consultation after the fact. It stands in direct contradiction to RBKC's own Charter for Public Participation, which commits to early, inclusive, collaborative engagement and to working with residents as equal partners from the outset. The lamentable history of delay and broken promises has inevitably led to an erosion of public trust. Hence, oversight of the project by a steering group is not just desirable, it is essential. A resident-led steering group will help ensure transparency, accountability and trust throughout the co-design and delivery process. It will allow the Council to draw on lived experience, build community support and create a space that genuinely reflects local needs and aspirations. We do not believe this is difficult to achieve. 4 applicants have already stepped forward. More will come if the process is visible, open and properly supported. To restore public confidence and ensure the park is delivered as promised, we ask the lead member for parks to commit to 3 things. First, to reinstate a resident-led steering group as part of a robust and transparent co-design process. Second, to ensure that residents help shape the design brief, priorities and evaluation criteria before consultants are commissioned. And thirdly, to establish and publish a firm, enforceable delivery date for the completed park, consistent with the green flag standard originally promised. We have been waiting long enough. Athlone Gardens is more than a box to be ticked. It is a once-in-a-generation opportunity to invest in community health, social connection and environmental quality in one of the borough's most underserved areas. Working together, RBKC and the local community can still deliver a park to be proud of, a beautiful, inclusive, resilient and much-loved space for current and future generations. Thank you.
Councillor Will, please respond for up to 2 minutes.
Thank you. Thank you, Jenny, for coming in. It's good to see you again. And actually, I'm really pleased because this allows me to address what I think is a misunderstanding about our intentions. As I've said to you in the past, it is absolutely our intention to consult fully and thoroughly with as many people as possible and deliver a fantastic park back to the community. And I know how important that is, and I know how long this has gone on. And I'm pleased to say when I was up there today, it was actually, given we've had a bit of a drought, looking quite green and some nice trees growing as well. So I think it's actually looking as good as it can given recent weather. With regard to the steering group, we did advertise. As you say, we only got 4 people come forward, and only two of those actually met the criteria. I don't believe a representative steering group can be 2 people. So what we did, as we have done with every other park, because we want to consult fully, we looked at other models we've used, and we're currently using in Lots Road, which we're going to put a series of designs forward, and then the public, all the local residents, will be given a chance to vote on which of those designs do we like best. We've just been doing this. They will be then asked to come forward to further consultations, further public meetings, and that design will evolve and change. So they will be fully involved. As I say, we've used this model elsewhere, and it's worked well. And it means that everyone can get a chance to communicate, and not some people having the burden of being on a steering group. We've already had 100 people come forward and talk to us about what they want. So I am optimistic. I know this works because we've used it elsewhere. And I'm just going to repeat, because I know I'm running out of time, it is absolutely our intention to make sure we get as many people consulting fully. And this model does coincide with the Charter of Public Participation, because we've used it elsewhere. So I'm sure we will be talking again, and I know you'll be very involved, and I really welcome that. Thank you.
Councillor Lowry, would you like to speak for up to 2 minutes?
Thank you, Jessica, for your clear but extremely concerning outline of the situation. I and my fellow Goulburn Ward councillors are very disappointed to have received notice that the council have decided to disband the community co-design process which it promised to residents a year and a half ago. We do not agree with the reason for the group's disbandment being that there would not be enough of a cross-section of the community. This mentality does not recognise a significant amount of volunteer time, unpaid, that residents are willing to put in to make improvements to the public realm. Not everybody has the capacity to help, but those who do should be encouraged. By dismissing the offers of residents who wish to engage, it is deeply insulting to them and demonstrates institutional flaws with this council. It undermines trust and deters future involvement by residents. Residents are not asking for special treatment. They are simply asking for the council to follow through with its Charter for Public Participation, which promises that residents are equal partners with the council from the outset of plans, not after the designs have been presented. Consultation is not co-design. They are very different things. Commenting on designs is consultation, but not co-design. Co-design means shaping the brief and priorities before the design begins, which is what the Charter commits to. You say we've already spoken to 100 residents, but that's informal feedback. And while informal feedback is useful, it's not co-design. There is no transparency, no continuity without a public accountable process. What matters is how decisions are made, not just who was asked. So finally, Mr. Mayor, Goulburn councillors call upon the council to please reinstate the resident-led steering group that has been promised. Residents must be involved in shaping the design brief and evaluation criteria, and the council must then commit to an enforceable delivery date for the co-designed Green Flag Standard Park, which we can then all be proud of. Residents want to work with you, not against you. Please stop smirking, so you don't miss another opportunity to show that this council can practice what it preaches.
Indeed. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms Jones. Mr Maxwell Woodger, please address the council.
Good evening. I'm Maxwell Woodger. I'm a long-standing resident in North Kensington. I live on Brewster Gardens. I'm asking a question on behalf of myself and residents in North Kensington, particularly St Helens. My question is regarding the construction of an underpass, which we've been waiting for over 10 years for. Imperial University have spent an awful lot of money in the area on their campus, which is an interesting development, but more importantly, a condition of that development was that they were going to build an underpass at the bottom of Latimer Road, connecting the area to Oxford Gardens, and also obviously the campus itself. So this is quite a big deal in planning terms. I would say it's the most significant transport connection that's happened in North Kensington in a long, long time. In terms of the change it will make, I would say it's mostly positive, particularly cutting a journey time if you live on the bottom of Latimer Road, Oxford Gardens and the surrounding areas from 30 minutes by foot down to just a few minutes. So that's really positive. I must say I was watching the planning meeting and I was pretty shocked and disappointed that neither of the two St Helens councillors, Portia Thaxter and Embedent Code, were present in the planning meeting and clearly don't care about this major transport link for the area. these things don't come up very often. I noticed that there were several Conservative councillors present, and other planning matters, they were speaking, but I was shocked that they weren't there. My question specifically is about what the council expects when it comes to the start and finish times, because obviously planning, when these things come up, they have 3 years to start, but will it happen? I hope it does. And finally, you know, what are the positive effects? How can we utilise these? But also, how can we mitigate the negative effects? Because with an underpass, there's always a threat of antisocial behaviour. We don't want, you know, motorised bikes going down there or any funny business. So how enforceable are those planning conditions? Thank you.
Councillor Kamali, please respond for 2 minutes.
Thank you. And again, I'm having to do my best impression of Councillor Thalasitis tonight. This is something really exciting. I mean, it's one of those bits of key infrastructure that come around very rarely. As you say, it's already been 10 years in the making. I gather we're still waiting for H&F to sign off their side of the land, of the tracks. But Kensington and Chelsea is working to make this happen. We're actually providing some of the land where the underpass is going to finish on our side. And I believe, indeed, the Planning Committee have resolved to grant it and attached a number of conditions to make sure that if in a couple of months after it's been delivered, so a few months after it's been delivered rather, there are any problems with motorcycles or whatnot going through, we'll be able to take enforcement action on that. But it really will be opening up a fantastic cycle route and walking route over to the White City campus, really linking what is a sort of a fantastic institution in Kensington and Chelsea with their counterpart facilities in Hammersmith and Fulham. I'm afraid delivering infrastructure in the United Kingdom does take a little bit longer than anyone would like, so I can't give you a start date or a finish date. I'm certain they can't start until H&F have signed it off, so perhaps we'd like to put pressure on their side to make sure that we can at least get spades in the ground as soon as possible. And really, I just think it's a good example of development working with local authorities and with residents to deliver something that I think, broadly, we all support and we want to see in action. So thank you for raising it, and thank you for helping make sure it's going to be fantastic when it's delivered. Thank you.
Thank you, Maxwell.
Councillor Thaxter, would you like to speak for up to 2 minutes?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Maxwell Woodger, I'm not going to play your games tonight because I know you're very malicious and nasty. No, you've tarnished, you've called my name. And I'm glad you've taken an interest in this development, something that's been going on for quite some time. Imperial commitments to build the underpass dates back from an S106 agreement with London Borough of Hammersmith and Fulham dated from 2012. 2014 planning application was deferred over CCTV concerns. Progress stalled for years due to dispute over liability until Network Rail agreed to retain responsibility. RBKC and Hammersmith and Fulham and others include local residents, councillors, including Judith Blakeman, Henry Peterson, pushed for progress. The planning permission was agreed a few weeks ago. Target planning submission was October 2024. Anticipated planning decisions is early 2025. Targeted start date for the site is late 2025. Targeted opening date is 2026. Imperial will be doing its best to complete this by the end of 2026. They still have to sign off final agreements with Network Rail and provide more info to RBKC and to sign a separate highway agreement. St. Helens councillors have played a significant role in this. We have supported the St. Quintins and Woodland Forum for many years. Also, the Latimer Preservative Group. Also, St. Helens Residents Association. They've put in a bid for 59,000 of NSIL funding to have extra CCTV because we know that location is very...
Could you conclude your comments, please?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's known for fly tipping and rubbish and crime. So that will highlight the patch for the CCTV, and us as local councillors are in full support of that.
Mr. Mayor, could I raise a point of order?
Thank you.
Yes, Councillor Kamali, what's your point of order?
He is a resident. Yeah. Sorry, Mr. Mayor, just to raise a point of order under Standing Order 28, we've referenced to Standing Order 25. Councillor Thaxter was not standing when she was speaking at 25.01, but also I don't believe that the language was very becoming of a councillor when speaking to a resident here tonight, so thank you.
Please wait a moment, please.
Mr. Mayor, I've got another point of order. At every single meeting, we've had Conservative members come and speak. I think they should declare themselves.
Councillor Lowry.
At the last time, we had someone
Councillor
else
Lowry,
called
please
come
sit down.
and was extremely
Councillor Lowry,
malicious
do not
towards
talk
Labour Group
over me.
members and
Please sit down.
unbecoming. And if Councillor Kamali wants to raise a point of order,
Councillor Lowry,
I don't
nobody can
accept
hear
that
you
one.
talking right now. Please sit down. I'm discussing another point of order. Once I've made a ruling on that, you'll have an opportunity to make your point of order. Thank you. Right. On the 2 points raised, firstly, I'll just remind all members to please stand when speaking. On the second point, is Councillor Thaxter, and to all members, please be civil in your comments. I know Mr. Woodger is a former councillor. He is still a resident of this borough who's come to speak tonight. So please keep your comments civil to all the people who have come to speak, and as well as to colleagues. Councillor Lowry, would you like to make a point of order?
Yeah. I would only say Standing Order 28, which Councillor Kamali raised, does not apply in this, because that refers to a con of speech that misrepresents the councillor in question. Councillor Kamali was not misrepresented. In fact, Councillor Thaxter was misrepresented. I don't think that Councillor Kamali's point of order stands, but I think we should, for full transparency, make it very clear that this is the second meeting in a row where we've had political members come and speak, former elected officials or people who have run for office, and have made nasty comments towards this side of the chamber. It's so obvious when this happens. Everyone can just go on Google and search who these people are. And it's out of order. Like, are you speaking as a resident or as a politician?
Councillor Lowry, thank you. You've made your point. Sorry, I'm going to move on. I think any person who lives or works in the borough, regardless of their political affiliations, is welcome to come and speak in full council. We'll move on to our next speaker, Ms. Carolyn Haynes. Would you please address the council?
Thank you. Thank you. Good evening. Thank you for having me this evening. My name's Carolyn Haynes. I'm a resident of Earls Court Ward in the borough, and I'm speaking on behalf of my granddaughter, her school, the community. I'd just like to speak about the closure of St Cuthbert and St Matthias School. And I'd like to know why 2 schools have been built relatively recently to cover my community, and yet a 150-year-old school is now having to close down because of decisions that I believe have been taken by this council and the unfair position the school has been put in. I feel this is the fault of the council and not the school, and therefore the school should be supported by the council and kept open. This is a community school with long-serving and hard-working teachers and parents and their children who are now devastated by the decisions taken, which I feel are completely wrong. I can say much, much more, but I really don't think that this is the place to do that. But I am very hurt and very upset, and I don't know. I have no answers. I've asked the questions, but I have no answers. I'd just like to understand. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Folkes, could could you please respond for up to 2 minutes?
Karen, thank you so much for coming in, and we have spoken before. I completely understand the distress for all children, parents and teachers when the potential closure of a school is being discussed. So for context, in early April, the Council was formally notified by the governors of St Cuthbert's with St Matthias of their intention to begin a governor-led consultation on a proposal to close the school. The governors. That initial consultation ran for 6 weeks, and following a review of all the responses and considering all the reasons that were behind this proposal, the governing body recommended that the Council move forward to the next phase, which is a statutory consultation to seek wider representations on the proposed closure. That consultation is now underway at the moment. It started last week. So this 4-week consultation gives an opportunity for everyone, even the ones that were consulted before, to put forward their responses that will be carefully considered. But it's important to note that the proposed closure of St Cuthbert's with Matthias is part of a broader trend across not just London, but across the whole country. And many schools are facing closures due to the decrease in pupil numbers and the increasing financial challenges that come with that. St Cuthbert's only has a 60% surplus in capacity and a projected financial deficit of approximately 460,000 by the 31st of October 2025, a figure that will need to be funded out of the Council's general funds. As lead member, I've been very actively involved with talking to parents. As you know, I've come along to parents' meetings there, as have my officers from Family and Children's Services. And we've particularly wanted to focus on those children with special educational needs, because we understand how it's very hard for them. So I have been assured
Could you
that
please
there is
conclude, Councillor Folkes? Thank you.
Okay, can I just quickly, it's very important just to answer the last question about the schools.
Just in 15
just very
seconds,
quickly,
if
about
you could,
your last
please.
point about the opening of the school. This was opened in 2024 as Kensington Primary Academy and was funded by Berkeley Homes to meet an increased demand at that time in 2014. And it was no conspiracy around that. It was part of their desire to deliver extra schooling, because at that time it was thought it was needed. But I'm very happy to come and speak to you afterwards, to speak to you again, and to speak to you any time that I can to help you out on that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Folkes. Councillor Verboven. Councillor Verboven, would you like to speak for up to 2 minutes?
Thank you, Ms Haynes, for coming forward with this question about an issue that has actually shocked the residents in Earls Court. The closure of St Cuthbert's and St Matthew's School after 150 years is a tragedy for the children and the community. Unfortunately, there has been a sense of predictability in its managed decline. For 10 years, we have made representations to the Council, along with Father Paul Baggett, to have additional funding based on the level of SEN, borderline state-mentored children and free school meals. The short-termism and reliance on additional central government funding for the education of asylum seekers and children with refugee status created school numbers that were hiding the true extent of need for investment. This was at a time when other schools were being built, some part of S106 arrangements, at a time when the stats were already showing a decline in child numbers. We urgently ask the Council to reconsider the option of closing the school, retain it, and allow it to serve an underserved child community now and into the future. If the Council is adamant it cannot keep the school open, then we would ask the Council to develop, in partnership with others, a youth hub to serve the south and centre of the borough, one that incorporates services to children from nursery up to the age of 18, providing support for both children and their parents. The Earls Court Youth Club are to capacity and have identified needs. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms Haynes, and thank you to all our speakers who came this evening. We now move on to item 6. Do members have any petitions to present, and if so, could you please just read the prayer? No. Item 7. I now invite the Leader of the Council to address the meeting for up to 5 minutes.
Good evening, Mr Mayor. I just want to update the Chamber on 2 items this evening, and the first is Carnival. No doubt colleagues would have seen the recent headlines, and there can be no doubt that without central government support, the organisers have concerns about this viability of this event. I'm afraid to say, Mr Mayor, the Labour government has been asked for support by me, by the Mayor of London, by the Met Police, by Westminster City Council and the organisers themselves. But the silence has been deafening. Statements in the press seem to indicate that the government representatives believe Notting Hill Carnival is something akin to a village fete. It should be funded by the local authority, they say. Mr Mayor, to make Carnival as safe as we possibly can, within the limited powers and remit that we have, costs us just over £1 million a year. This amount is not village fete territory. Carnival is an international event with more than 1 million people coming into the borough every year. Tonight, as further meetings and talks are underway between the Mayor of London and the government, I do hope funding will be forthcoming. Kim is working hard on this behind the scenes, but our resources and our money are not infinite, especially considering the fiscal robbery facing London due to changes in local government finances announced just last week. As ever, we will keep members updated as best we can. Mr Mayor, secondly, I want to reflect on attending and speaking at staff conferences yesterday. They're designed to bring our workforce together, renew our collective efforts, and take a moment to reflect, not on just where we've come from, but where we're going together as custodians of this extraordinary borough. We are not just a local authority. Kensington and Chelsea is a symbol of London's past and of its future, of its history, its ambition, its diversity, and its potential. And our role, collectively, is to lead it with relentless competence and compassion. Our residents expect the basics to be done brilliantly. Clean streets, safe neighbourhoods, services that work first time, every time. And what I can report back tonight is that our staff are up for that challenge. And my hope is that collectively we can work together to really define and create what modern local government looks like. Mr Mayor, as I said to staff yesterday, I want to lead a council that stands up for aspiration and enterprise, while also being there firmly and compassionately when people need us most. We want a smaller state, not a weaker one, an organisation that knows when to step forward and when to step back. It's about doing what matters most and doing it exceptionally well. Our vision for the Council's future is built on 7 clear principles. First, we will always champion low tax and sound finances because we know it's not our money, it's the public's. Second, we will provide the services residents care most about, clean, safe streets and top-tier services that are simple to access and rapid to respond. Third, we will be there when it counts, whether that's as a competent and compassionate landlord or a trusted partner to children's, families and vulnerable adults. Fourth, we will drive innovation and efficiency, using technology, data and smart ideas from across sectors to reduce bureaucracy and deliver better outcomes. Fifth, we will protect and enhance the unique places that make this borough special. We are custodians of something extraordinary and we take that role seriously. Sixth, we will back aspiration for families, for young people and for businesses who want to contribute and thrive. And 7, we will never forget. We will honour the promise we made to the survivors and bereaved of Grenfell and continue to learn from the past as we work to become the best council in this country, something they want us to be. And then on that last point, Mr Mayor, the 8th anniversary has just passed. And can I say what a real honour it was to be invited into the community events in North Kensington again. Tomorrow I'm meeting with Alex Norris and his team and reminding him of the government's commitments to communicate with the local community on the sensitive deconstruction on the tower, to fund adequate levels of health support in the area. And once again, I will be asking about funding commitments for the refurbishment of the Lancaster West estate. Again, I will aim to keep all members up to date on these issues wherever possible. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. I now invite Councillor Ali to respond for up to 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And may I just start with my fellow councillors and Labour councillors. Specifically, you've pointed out that if someone comes there and to speak at the council, they should dictate who they are and who they're speaking on behalf. We will not accept a cheap political point scoring for getting a politician, if we're getting a former councillor to speak and not to declare that interest. Portia clearly beat him last time, and she will beat him again. Well done, you. Mr. Mayor, if I may start with my deep condolences to the families of two children and 2 adults who've lost their lives due to the Indian airplane crash who are in the borough. I've met the relatives, and I hope that we pray for their, we pray for them, and we are sorry truly for their loss. I've met the chief executive, I've spoken to her, and our offices are offering support for those who have lost in the council, and we all pray for the family and for them to recover. Mr. Mayor, Grenfell, 8th anniversary of Grenfell have just came and passed, and that is the reason that we are here today, specifically for this month, for everyone to remember. 72 lives of our community have been lost, and those 72 victims, no one has been held accountable. The Labour group of councillors will continue to ask for bereaved families and survivors to get justice. 14th of June will always be remembered, a day for our community that we came together and supported for our communities. Mr. Mayor, if I would just specifically want to thank organizations that have been supporting our local communities for bereaved and survivors, and one particular organization that has been organizing events, Grenfell Community Trust Organization, which not only provided activities for the day, but also initiated for dinners for bereaved and survivors to come together. And I'm sure, Mr. Mayor, you recall that we've met, both of us, we spoke at that event and supported the local community for both the bereaved and the sanctuaries. And that was the 21st of June at Almanar Centre. Mr. Mayor, I also would like to thank the local MPs who come together and supported, including as well as the neighbouring MPs, including Anti-Slaughter MP for Hammersmith and Jessic, as well as Don Patler for Brent East, and the other members of Parliament who continue to support us and to join us year in, year out to lay the wreath for Grenfell survivors. I have said before, and I will continue to say this again, that night, what I've experienced, which has actually led me to become a councillor, will never, ever release, you know, how can I even say the words, erased from my memory. It will continue to be so, and we will get justice. I have contributed interviews during, before, and after the Grenfell disaster for this 8th year anniversary, and the question that I have been asked all the time, Mr. Mayor, was, what is justice seems to you, Qasim? The justice that I actually will to see is the justice to be held accountable for those who are responsible for the Grenfell fire disaster, not to be free at this year, 8 years on. And that's why I have traveled to Manchester City to actually meet the mayor of Manchester City, Andy Burnham, to ask him and seek advice from him how the communities in and around Manchester and Merseyside dealt with the Hillsborough disaster. So, and I think that is something we need to work on, Mr. Mayor. Looking forward, Mr. Mayor, what we can do is to be a legacy, to be a housing fit for human habitation. That is exactly what we want, and to have to be safe, healthy homes throughout the borough, as the local MP, Joe Bowell, has been campaigning for. Working with the local communities is another significant, important issue. I have attended a meeting on Friday last week to actually part of 14 organizations at Canalside House, where they feel they have not only been ignored, but at this moment they actually feel they have been discriminated because they are minority-led organizations in north of the borough, where they stood up for the opportunities, for the leadership that the government at the time and the local council failed to do so, and they should be supported and continue to be offered the support that they need. Mr. Mayor, also what I would absolutely like from the Labour Group bench and with the council and the government is setting up Grenfell Scholarship. We all know education is a pathway to opportunity, success as a long-term prosperity for the local communities, individuals and communities alike. Mr. Mayor, in recognition to that and exactly what happened to the loss of lives that we have lost as a community, but also the enduring impact for Grenfell Tower tragedy, we are calling for the establishment to support the young generation in our borough, in the local area, in particular North Kensington. This scholarship also aims to provide financial support, financial educational opportunity for the younger people, similar social economic conditions to those affected in the Grenfell Tower. In the Grenfell legacy, Mr. Mayor, I will conclude to this point. Grenfell legacy should also include a meaningful, lasting investment for the future generations, not the generation that's suffering now, but also the future generations who were there where the disaster happened as the younger children, and that scholarship will support. But also to that end, we can also get a borough-wide to support that this council, when they get things right, they admit and they support the local community. I will be organizing a meeting with the local minister, with the government minister, to make sure that we get the funding and the support for this. And I expect the council leadership to work with us and establish Grenfell scholarship for future generations and support young people across the borough, not just in one area, but across the borough for educational wise. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Ali. And on the point of the tragic Air India crash, I'm sure colleagues across the chamber join me in sending our deepest condolences to the families, in particular the families resident in our borough. In accordance with standing orders, I rule that the order of business shall be as published. Item 9. There is one report from leadership team to note the key decision taken under urgency procedures. I now invite Councillor Campbell to propose the report's reception and Councillor Taylor-Smith to second.
I'd like to propose it.
And I'm happy to second.
Councillor Campbell, would you like to speak?
No, thank you.
Does any other member wish to speak on this matter? No. In which case, does the council agree to note the report?
Agreed.
Item 10. There is a report from the Overview and Scrutiny Committee on the committee's statutory annual community safety scrutiny. With members' consent, we will use the altered text on pages 7 and 8 of the supplementary papers, which is the text supplied by Councillors Simmons and Benton. Do you agree? Would Councillor Wheel formally propose the report's reception and Councillor Hudd second?
I beg to second, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Wheel, would you like to speak?
Yes, please. This was a very well attended by residents and ward councillors session, which was really pleasing to get so much sort of involvement. And of course, that's indicative of quite how important policing is as an issue to our residents. And I think every single one of us in the chamber would acknowledge that. We picked out, the report picks out the major themes that the questioning and the report dwelt on, and I just want to sort of go through them very briefly. There was talk about crime scene strategy. You know, all those sort of alarming yellow signs you see everywhere when there's been a crime scene and all those sort of bits of tape. Those can arouse sort of great feelings of anxiety and concern in people, particularly when they never find out what actually happened in the area. And members of the committee brought that forcefully to the attention of the police and suggested that, who responded that they are in fact developing a strategy for dealing with crime scenes in that way, and the sort of interaction with the public, which I think is very welcome. Antisocial behaviour was naturally the item that particularly got residents involved in the discussion. It strikes really at the core of what the police can do for our residents, and their responses on that were in some ways hopeful, but I think we all feel there's some way to go on that. There were numerous concerns about bikes, and I think the police talked a lot about education cyclists, which I think got a slightly hollow laugh from many of the people on the committee. And I think they went away with the firm impression that we were looking for more enforcement as well as education. I think one of the most interesting things we discussed was CCTV, because you hear quite often that residents say, we had CCTV available, the police never came and asked us for it with a crime. And actually, they told us that they are developing a strategy to sign up people with CCTV so that they can automatically request from them when there's a crime and they can automatically upload it to the police in order to help with inquiries, which will stop police having to knock on doors and saying, you know, can you give me a memory stick with this on? So I think that was really interesting, and we will want to watch that, I think, with interest in future. We talked about Grenfell, and particularly seeking reassurance about Royalty Studios, which we received and is reflected in this report at Councillor Simmonds' request. And we talked about real concerns about the disappearance of the Royal Parks Police and what that's going to mean in terms of numbers for us. I don't think it was very clear. We wanted it to be clearer about them sort of whether we were going to get enough resource back to contribute to policing in the parks once that force had been abolished. And I think the final point we made, and I was most disappointed about this in their report, was the data that they supplied, which was patchy, and they repeated a lot of unimportant data, but didn't drive it. So, for example, they didn't tell us, you know, we'd all be interested to know how many bicyclists had been prosecuted this year. That's the kind of data they don't give us, and we gave them a very firm steer that in future we expected better quality data in our reports. We also explicitly asked them to come back next year and report back on those things that we had raised this year, which didn't happen in the report we received this time. Other issues we were raised were, you know, what is the bar for investigating? So often we hear people saying, well, they just didn't investigate that at all. We ask them what the bar for that was, and also emphasise the difficulty of contacting the police. I think we're lucky that we've got a great deal of continuity in our local policing at the moment, which we haven't had before, particularly in one of our local offices. So I want to thank the police for coming and being so frank and engaging so actively, actually, with our residents during the session, and of course for residents who really helped us, I think, in this meeting, hold the police to account. So I recommend this report to the Council.
Thank you, Councillor Wheel. Councillor Hudd, would you like to speak?
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Would any other member like to speak? Councillor Simmonds.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I would just like to thank the Chair of the Committee very much, firstly for agreeing to my request to include in this report the questions raised by minority members of the committee in relation to North Kensington and Grenfell, which were initially omitted from the report. I'm sure she'll understand why I put my foot down, and I'm very grateful to her for agreeing. And I also would like to thank the Chair for accepting my amendment to paragraph 1.8, which I hope provides some improved clarity for the Council and also for the public. Thank you very much.
Yeah, well done.
Thank you, Councillor Simmonds. Councillor Yankson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just also want to thank the Chair of the Overview and Scrutiny Committee for this very important statutory function, and just mention two things that came out of the page for me. The first one is the police tackling crime in businesses, and secondly is the ward panels in terms of policing. We've got 18,000 businesses here within the Royal Borough, and I attend a number of Chamber of Commerce events on a regular basis and speak to businesses, and some of the feedback from the businesses is that the police needs to do more together with our crime and security team to make sure that shoplifters, whether they're on the Fulham Road, High Street Ken, Kings Road or elsewhere, are charged, prosecuted and stopped. And I also want to thank the Borough Commander for Neighbourhood Policing for attending at my request the recent Chamber of Commerce to actually address the business owners themselves, so that they can hear directly from the police about what the police is doing to make sure that the 18,000 businesses, 120,000 employees are safe within our business community. And finally, in relation to our ward panels, on which I sit on a regular basis in Redcliffe, we thank the police for coming and actually speaking directly to residents. It's very important to give that two-way feedback and actually let residents know what the police are doing on a regular basis. So I thank the chair of the committee, and I also thank the police for the work that they've done together with the neighbourhood policing team and the security team within the council. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Yankson. Does any other member wish to speak? Councillor Wheel, would you like to sum up? No? In which case, Does the Council agree to note the report as set out in the supplementary papers? The report is noted. Item 11, we have notice of 2 questions to lead members. Would Councillor Jeddett please put her question to Councillor Addenbrooke?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, in November 2023, I stood here at full council and I asked Councillor Addenbrooke publicly and to help with issue which was local. And she made a promise to Dalgana Ward residents that she would address City Living local funds being systematically blocked by Councillor Ali by adding, she put it, a light touch. What exactly has she done? Because £18,000 out of 21 of Dalgana Ward City Living local life budget went back to the council due to countless applications submitted by the residents being rejected by Councillor Ali. She failed to step in, being asked to do so. What is more, she limited City Living local life applications to 3 per organisation per 1 year, minimizing chances of getting any money whatsoever for local projects. And I'm very sorry to bring this matter again and again from 2023. Nothing has been done, and we are really disappointed to be here again. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yep. Councillor Jeddett, I think everyone in this chamber is getting a sense of déjà vu, or is it just a broken record over your question? The communities team did do a light touch review. However, we were unable to overcome the issue in Dalgana Ward, and it is totally unfair to say that one councillor is blocking the applications. Frankly, there is only one way forward, and I would be very happy to arrange a meeting with you and Councillor Ali and officers to see if we can find a way to work together for the benefit of your residents. It is the only ward we have this problem. We've had some problems in other wards, but we've managed to get the councillors to work together. So I'm just asking you to please have a meeting and let's see if we can find a way forward. Thank you.
Councillor Jeddett, do you have a follow-up question?
Yes, thank you. Unfortunately, there are over 40 applications from Dalgana Ward. I have not blocked them. I have not stopped them. I not ignore my residents asking for feedback. It is all there and available to public because it's public money. I ask why £18,000 went back, no engagement with the question. Why you limited to 3, no engagement with the question. Would you just simply, please, take in £50,000 a year to serve the residents? It's a public money. And for many residents so far, and I am here asked to channel this to you, it's a gross neglect against society, which is a criminal offence. And since you are not able to engage with it, would you just resign and not collect public money for something which you are just simply unable to do? And you obviously twist whatever has been done. There is a list of 40 applications, and obviously people make those applications with hope that we will secure the funding. And again, they are refused, email not responded to, and no feedback given. And you meant to support residents by appointing director for communities to step in and review and maybe greenlight. You have not done that, and we are very disappointed.
Councillor Jeddett, I can't tell you how disappointed I am. You refused to come to a meeting where we could try and resolve this.
Councillor Jeddett, please. Sorry. Councillor
Point
Jeddett.
of order.
You can't lie. Councillor Jeddett. Councillor Jeddett. Councillor Jeddett, please. You've had a question and a follow-up question. Thank you. Councillor Addenbrooke, is there anything else you'd like to add, or should I move on to...
Mr. Mayor, I don't think there's any point. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Would Councillor Thaxter please put her question to Councillor Campbell?
Yes, I will, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to clarify. When I got into the chamber tonight, I did tell Douglas that I won't be able to stand because I fell out there and I hurt my ankle. This is why I asked, and I said that I will be sitting at this meeting.
That's completely understandable. Yeah, I should say, I think the standing order says councillors to stand, but it should say stand if they're able to do so.
Yes.
So, understood. Thank you for clarifying that.
Thank you. This is my question to the lead member. Given the Conservatives' government role in creating the current crisis, including the cost of living crisis, rising housing costs, and widespread digital exclusion, what current steps is RBKC Council taking to support older residents struggling with housing costs, energy bills, and digital exclusion, especially in the light of the growing financial pressures and the low take-up of our pension credit in London?
Thank you, Portia, and I'm sorry about your ankle. Well, we are absolutely committed to making this borough fairer. We have a cost of living payment scheme, which is the best in London. In February 2024, we approved a £100 payment for over 16,500 residents, and then earlier this year, we followed it up with a £50 for the same group of residents. And that's on top of our council tax reduction scheme, which helped 13,000 residents last year. On energy bills, following the Labour government's decision to remove the winter fuel payment from all but the poorest pensioners, this council stepped in, giving £200 to those social housing tenants who had just missed the threshold. We're supporting our children with free school meals in the holidays, and through our Fairer Action Plan are launching a new programme of bursaries for those in low-income households, and we're particularly looking at those low-income households in social housing. And finally, Portia, you asked about digital inclusion, and I agree. I know how important getting online is for our residents, and especially the elderly. And we hold sessions in our libraries right across the borough where staff and volunteers are on hand to help people. And we also work with a number of partners such as MenCap and Nova to ensure that support is also targeted at specific groups. And I'd be really happy to arrange for you to meet with officers so we can look at any other concerns you have in detail and I can respond more fully. So thank you.
Yeah. Councillor Thaxter, do you have a follow-up question? Yeah.
I do, but I will meet with Councillor in about a week or two to discuss how we're going to work with our local residents to increase the uptake of pension credit, because so many millions get wasted and go back into the pot yearly, and that's something that we can do in order to improve our residents' lives.
Thank you. Yep, okay. We'll move on to item 12. Could the following members please speak for up to 2 minutes each on a ward or other live issues that is primarily local in nature? Councillor Verboven.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Earls Court is the smallest and most densely populated ward in the borough. As predicted when we fought Burger King's application for a 5 a.m. license, which was granted, this license has created a domino effect with 5 life-changing applications coming forward. Admiral and Silvertime, adult gaming venues looking to remain open 24 hours. McDonald's and Star Kebab looking to extend their license to 5 a.m. and the Co-op looking for a license for 24-hour alcohol sales. And after midnight, that would be via delivery bikes. We expect other places to come forward requesting variations of their license to extend to 5 a.m. as well. These applications will undermine any proposed improvements to the area undertaken by the Council. We have a public spaces protection order in place in Earls Court to deal with our existing antisocial behaviour, drug use and supply problems, and this is likely to increase if the licenses are approved. But neither the local police team nor the street enforcement team will be active at those hours of the night, so who will enforce the street livers who are able to access alcohol throughout the night and cause hassle to residents and hotel guests trying to sleep? Delivery drivers waiting for orders are already causing a lot of hassle with the current opening hours. They leave food and drink waste on our steps and use our basements as lavatories. They shout and have fights. And if extended, no one will be at hand to police their antisocial behaviour but emergency services who are hopefully understaffed. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Knight.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to raise the matter of the Olympia development in our neighbouring borough of Hammersmith and Fulham. While there's no doubt the scheme will bring cultural and commercial benefits to the local area, the influx of visitors is likely to put additional pressure on residential parking bays in Holland Ward, particularly in the south, during currently uncontrolled hours. I'm pleased that an informal consultation is now underway to explore extending weekend parking controls, ensuring residents are directly involved in the decision-making, and local councillors have backed 2 resident-led petitions in recent times as part of the wider efforts to gather the views of the community. But we also must ensure any new restrictions work for our residents in Holland, and at a recent Holland Park Residents Association meeting, we heard real concerns about the prospects of heavy restrictions in the north of the ward at weekends. Residents voiced their concerns about the idea that close friends and family would now be charged for visiting in weekend hours, making it more expensive to see their loved ones, even in the areas that are a good 10-15 minute walk from Olympia and the south of the ward. So I urge the Highways Department to ensure that the traffic and parking impacts of the Olympia development, including a new school on site, are not felt at the expense of our constituents. Their needs, their access, and their quality of life must be at the heart of any decision made. These changes must work for the people who live here and not just those who come to visit. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Burns.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I would like to speak today about an exciting and significant development in our borough, namely in Chelsea Riverside, a creation of a new public open space behind Lotts Road pumping station. The borough is densely populated, as densely populated as ours, needs more open and green spaces. It's not a luxury, it's a necessity. They support our residents' well-being, offer vital space for recreation, and help bring our communities together. That is why this project is so important. It's not just about land use, it's about quality of life. The new space represents the opportunity to do something truly special. I'm pleased to report the residents have been involved every step of the way. From the outset, we committed to a community-led approach. We began with public consultation to gather ideas and priorities, and I'm delighted that the residents played a central role in selecting the design team for the project. The winning concept from the initial consultation is now available to view online, which I will plug right now, www.rbkc.gov.uk/LROS. Go check it out. It looks cool, but it's going to get better. Now we're entering the next equally important phase, shaping the final designs for the space through resident workshops and drop-in sessions. These workshops will help ensure the final layout reflects needs, aspirations, and everyday lives of those who will use it. I'm also going to give another plug because the drop-in sessions are taking place very soon. So if you are around and are interested, please go to Athlone Gardens on the following dates to participate. Saturday, 28th of June, 10:30 a.m. to 12 noon, or Tuesday, 8th of July, 5:30 p.m. to 7 p.m., or Saturday, 12th of July, 10:30 a.m. to 12 noon. The consultation remains open until Sunday, the 27th of July, and I strongly encourage all residents to engage and spread the word. That's what I'm doing right now. The new open space will not only improve access to nature...
conclude.
Oh, sorry.
Please.
Well,
Thank
please
you.
just make sure you do that because it's going to be great for all the local community to use some more open space. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Idris.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to speak about our lovely new plaza in Draycott Avenue. We are very fortunate in Brompton and Handstown. Not only is it a wonderful place to live and a beautiful place to visit, and encourage all of you to visit, but we also have the most fantastic landlords and freeholders. Such one is... for example, we have the Cadagans who finished Sloane Street beautifully under budget and before deadline. But what I want to talk about is what Tribeca did. Turned a small corner into a beautiful place where you can sit outside, have a sandwich, have, meet friends and have a coffee. And we also have now outside al fresco seating area that is probably going to be there for 365 days a year because of the new development. So I encourage you to visit and come and enjoy this beautiful space with us. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Item 13. Members will see that we have 5 motions printed in the agenda. Motion 1 is about the impact of higher employers' national insurance contributions. Would Councillor Hudd formally move the motion and Councillor Hammond please second?
I wish to move the motion, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
I beg to second, sir.
I now invite Councillor Hudd to speak for up to 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On 30th of October 2024, the government announced that from April 2025, the rate of employers' national insurance contributions, NICs, would increase by 1.2%, and the threshold employers pay employees' NICs on each employee's salary would reduce from $9,100 to $5,000 a year. Additionally, the employment allowance will increase from £5,000 to £10,500 and now applies to employers who pay more than $100,000 in NICs. Sorry, Mr. Mayor. I have just been reading slightly a summary of it, but not to worry. HMRC estimates that these measures combined will impact around 1.2 million employees from April 2025. The Independent Office for Budget Responsibility, OBR, states this will result in an average annual tax increase in excess of £800 per employee. This council is deeply concerned by the OBR report, which states that in 2025-26, employers will pass on 60% of the higher costs to workers and consumers via lower wages and higher prices. And from 2026 to 2027 onwards, 76% of the total cost is passed through lower real wages. There will be a serious impact to public services, such as GPs, as well as private contractors that are procured by the local authority. For example, private care homes and providers for both adults and children will see increased employment costs, which in turn will increase the cost of these services to Kensington and Chelsea Council and the local taxpayer. This council believes the following. The changes to NICs will have a damaging impact, estimated around £535,000 of direct cost and £2.4 million of indirect costs relating to external contracts on Kensington and Chelsea Council. That the Labour Chancellor, Rachel Reeves MP, was right when she previously referred to any increase to NICs as a jobs tax and a tax purely on working people. Therefore, this council requests that Kensington and Chelsea Council's lead member for finance, customer services and net zero investigates the implication of the NICs changes and makes a written submission to the government on its impacts. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Hammond, would you like to speak?
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. And as it's my first opportunity to speak since you've been in your seat, sir, congratulations on assuming it. And it's a very great honour to follow Councillor Hudd. And I'd also like to thank those who drafted this motion and who are unable to speak to it this evening for various reasons. I'll make my remarks in the style of the contents of a political interview, so I'll have personal, professional and political comments to make about the employer's national insurance tax, or perhaps we ought to call it the jobs tax, as Councillor Hudd rightly mentioned. So on the personal front, many members will know that there's 2 elderly members of my family whose estates I am currently managing. One of them is my aunt, who's in a care home. A care home, it's a very labour-intensive business running a care home. And this year, her fees went up in April because of this jobs tax, and that was what the care home said, by 8%. So inflation, about 2.5%. the rise in her care home fees was 8%. So what's the effect of that? Obviously, greater monthly costs. It will bring forward, it will accelerate the point at which she runs out of money, and it will bring forward the point at which she's thrown on the mercy of West Sussex County Council and basically the state to take over her care. If we didn't have such high charges from the government, that point would be some way further down the line because the care home's costs would not be so great. So that's my personal experience. On a professional front, I'll describe a small business which I'm very familiar with. They had a look at their revenue in April this year, and they did have an increase in the cost in the revenue, the net revenue from their main contract, which is in fact with the government. But what they found was that their payroll costs, their increased payroll costs, were swallowed up 100% by the jobs tax. And where did that leave them in terms of offering them a pay rise to their employees? Well, they didn't have any money to offer them a pay rise. What did they do? Well, they managed to scrape around and they did give the employees a pay rise, but the pay rise averaged about 1% for most staff, so less than half of the rate of inflation, and that was a direct result of the jobs tax. Let's move on to some political analysis. So sitting in my seat on the Overview and Scrutiny Committee, we looked at the budget, as many members will know, over several sessions last year. We know that, of course, as a council, we have to pay the jobs tax, both on our employees and on the costs that are passed on to us from our contract staff. We did get an increased grant to cover the employees, but not for the contract staff. And from the figures I remember from the Overview and Scrutiny Committee, that was roughly an extra £1 million a year in extra cost to the council. And let's now have a think about the council tax. So a 1% rise in council tax raises roughly £1 million. So we put up the council tax by 4 percentage points this year. If it hadn't been for the jobs tax, we would only have to put up the council tax by 3 percentage points. So that's a direct impact on our residents because of this government's jobs tax. And so finally, let's take a look at some national statistics. So I consulted the Office of National Statistics and had a look at some data. So the unemployment rate, the latest figure's gone up from 4.5% to 4.6%. The number of payrolled employees fell between April, when the jobs tax was introduced, and May by 109,000. And that's following a fall of 55,000 between March and April. Jobs vacancies are down by 63,000 over the quarter, and the number of payrolled employees nationally has fallen in every single month since the jobs tax was announced by the Chancellor last autumn. There are 274,000 fewer people in payrolled employment year on year from May last year to May this year. And that's not just a statistic, that's more than 250,000 real people whose jobs have been and lives have been affected by this jobs tax. And it's a direct result of the jobs tax. So I hope if the opposition are going to speak on this motion, I hope they will apologise for the actions of the Chancellor of the Exchequer. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
I will now open the motion up to debate. A number of councillors have indicated that they wish to speak. Councillor Rendell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to thank my colleagues, Councillor Hudden, Councillor Hammond, for such very concise and really important points that they had raised there. I wanted to touch base as well, Mr. Mayor, on how this affects specifically our health service and GP practices in the borough. Now, as Councillor Hudden, Councillor Hammond have referred to, the job tax, which I quite enjoy, and I know the Labour government, Mr. Mayor, put forward a manifesto commitment that they would not tax working people. Now, I'm not sure about Labour's position, Mr. Mayor, but I assume and I know that GPs are working people. And, Mr. Mayor, the government have not applied any exemption or any extra funding to GP services. Now, that puts a real strain on them. Now, as people may know, GP services run as businesses. So they're not part of the overall NHS structure. They're not part of the ICB. They're not part of a particular trust. So when you go see your GP, they are often running that surgery by themselves. They're running it as their own little entrepreneurial business, employing other GPs and other staff there. Unlike the NHS, Mr. Mayor, the government has decided that GPs will not be given any extra funding, making some practices, Mr. Mayor, potentially unviable. And that leads to worse health outcomes in our borough, worse services. Can you imagine, Mr. Mayor, if you try to go to your GP, you're not going to get, I mean, waiting lists are huge as they are right now, but if GPs can't employ further doctors, they can't employ further staff because they're having to pay so much more extra tax on the basis of this particular element, I think it is really, really disastrous for our community. The BMA, Mr. Mayor, the union for the GPs, have criticised the government and have called on the Department of Health and Social Care to designate GPs as public authority bodies, therefore being exempt. But this has not happened. GPs, Mr. Mayor, on average, and I'm sure Councillor Hammond may be able to speak to this particularly more closer, are losing effectively an extra £20,000 per year just going straight to the Exchequer. Now, you know, that is not very good for our health services here. Now, as I said, some GPs are on the cusp, some potentially may close, and that is not good. And I think the government really needs to rethink this, because as I said, GPs are working people. But according to the government, they are not. And I really, really encourage my colleagues on the other side of the chamber to take this on board. Thank you.
Councillor Simmons, would you like to speak?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I would. It's certainly very good to see that this council has become so concerned about lower wages and higher prices, and about the effects of the actions of central government. So we should definitely be talking about this. As we know, these things are multifactorial, and so I will say, for those with short memories, people who live in glass houses probably shouldn't throw stones. According to the National Institute of Economic and Social Research, Brexit, i.e. the referendum imposed by the Conservative David Cameron, and the deal agreed by the Conservative Boris Johnson, has permanently diminished trade efficiency in the UK. The barriers it imposed increased costs both for importers and exporters, and has also produced negative supply-side shock in the form of increased business costs, thus depressing both productivity and outside investment, and increasing prices to the consumer and to public services. Higher prices. During COVID, under the Conservative government of Boris Johnson, we saw a conservatively estimated loss of £1.9 billion from the Treasury in the way of fraud and, according to Transparency International, outright corruption. What do we suppose were the impacts of that? We also saw average price rises of between 3% and 5% during that time. The price of some items more than doubled. Meanwhile, corporations such as Tesco were posting bumper profits in the billions, while claiming their price rises were because of increased supply costs. It doesn't add up, does it? It looks like unchecked profiteering under that Conservative government. And inflation reached a high of 11%. What do we suppose the impact of that was on prices? In September 2022, the Conservative Prime Minister Liz Truss announced a mini-budget which, according to the Resolution Foundation, cost the Treasury £30 billion. Other sources actually say £60 billion. It caused the value of the pound to plummet to an all-time low against the dollar, increasing the cost of living in the UK by an estimated 1%. Higher prices. Everything this motion is complaining of has already been happening to a far greater and more troubling degree over the last 14 years. Real terms, wages growth over the last 14 years of Conservative governments has been minimal or stagnant. Real terms income, taking into account taxation and benefits, even lower, with wages being far outstripped by price rises. So I will only say that if the concern expressed within this motion is genuine, I do trust that our lead member made frequent similar written submissions to government on the impacts of its actions upon wages and prices. Thank you.
Councillor Evans.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and our distinguished colleagues. I am here as a chair of licensing committee and as a resident of our beloved Kensington and Chelsea, and will specifically address the implications on hospitality and licensed premises of the job tax. Labour's 2004 budget has had a devastating effect on our hospitality industry, and especially on the nighttime economy. With national insurance rates rising, the overall labor costs for businesses in the hospitality sector have also increased. Many businesses have been squeezed, and establishments have had to redesign their wage offerings. Venues have had to reduce hours or limit hiring to offset the rising costs. This can have an impact on service quality, portion sizes, and availability. The hospitality industry operates on very thin profit margins. With an increase in national insurance contributions, businesses are forced to raise their prices, which in turn may deter customers, subsequently impacting sales, particularly in a competitive nighttime economy. Staff retention is an increasing issue for the hospitality industry. Higher national insurance combined with cost of living crises is discouraging potential employees from joining this sector. Some businesses have even resorted to technology to counteract rising labor costs, substituting human personal service for automated ordering systems. We can go out and order without interacting with people, which is half the fun. Unless your date happens to be a robot, then it doesn't matter. You're not losing much. So the entertainment model becomes impersonal. Colleagues, we have all either been born in KNC or have moved here or have been placed here. And aren't we lucky? We have all enjoyed the fun offerings in KNC, a cup of coffee, a meal, or a mocktail with friends and colleagues. The hospitality industry and nighttime economy needs our support during these hard times. Please join me in urging our lead member for Finance, Customer Services, and Net Zero to study the implications of national insurance contributions and exert written pressure on the government to take heed. Thank you.
Councillor Jedditt, would you like to speak?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. From the top of my head, it's quite lamentable that the Labour current government fails to tax the rich and goes after the poor. I would rather suggest that we do some kind of self-evaluation and see how we function. From lacking indoor teams, I'll give you an example. Fire alarm was ringing for 4 days. Nobody responded from our end. Currently, we have issue of fire system, inconsistent fail, nobody attends to it. So self-evaluation, we have an army of officers who work from home through COVID. We have chief executive, and we can afford £300,000 a year. We have executives, directors, senior managers, some job overlaps. From my perspective is we should do literally self-searching and see where we are failing, where we can improve ourselves in a way of making ourselves more efficient and not to spend without limits. Again, it is on a national level, and this report possibly would be very helpful to see for all party members here, left and right and different, not grouped. However, once again, it is lamentable that the Labour government does not deliver what we promised. And promise was to go after offshore bank accounts, to go after dirty money. In this budget, we saw nothing from Labour group, unfortunately. And I can understand we need officers to deliver services, but if they are failing, we need to do self-evaluation, we need to do job reviews, who is performing, who is not performing, because we cannot afford paying for doing no work. Thank you.
Councillor Schmetterling.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening. This motion is spot on. As point 5 says, the vast majority of the increase in national insurance contributions, NICs, estimated at 25 billion, will be or is being passed on to employees. To add to what is already stated in the motion is that charities have been affected. On relatively small charities like, say, Citizens Advice, Kensington, Chelsea, the overall effect may be fairly neutral, but the bigger Citizens Advice operations in other boroughs are negatively affected. Another community organisation has a payroll of about £800,000. The NIC increase is costing £20,000. This may not look like much, but the marginal effect is substantial. There are some member contributions, but the organisation also needs donations. The NCVO, that's the National Council for Voluntary Organisations, estimates that the annual costs for the charity sector will increase by £1.4 billion. A significant accountancy firm, Wilder Co., states that due to substantial additional costs, charities will face significant payroll expenses and could notice an impact on their service delivery. Charities should look to adjust their budgets and prepare for reduced services due to reallocation of funding. Additionally, due to increased employment costs, charities may encounter staffing concerns. The sector already struggles with staff recruitment and retention. Thus, charities may seek other methods to combat these challenges, such as recruitment freezes, reducing hours, or implementing redundancies. The biggest concern charities encounter with existing financial pressures is the increased risk of insolvency. This is not trivial. And this is another example, I think, of government not realizing the consequences of its actions. I urge everyone to support this motion. Thank you.
Would any other member like to speak on this motion? Yes, Councillor Ali.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was not planning to speak, but let's just make it some corrections for the party opposite. It seems for my colleagues who've asked me to apologise on behalf of the Labour government of the Labour Party, but I'm really taking the point now. I think it's for the Conservative Party, sorry seems to be the hardest word for them. So I would say on their behalf, sorry for what they have done to our country for the last 14 years, and least trust budget, which we know how the country has been dealt with. So on that note, this motion is not fit. This government has been doing its best to do it for the last 12 months, even not 12 months now, 11 months. And I think the reality is now, for what the Conservatives have done to the country for the last 14 years, this government is pledging not only to deal with the chronic housing crisis that has been left for the last 14 years, it's trying to build 1.5 million homes. And speaking of the NHS, my colleague, my friend, Councillor Josh Rundle, mentioned about the NHS. Let me give you one figure about the NHS specifically. Not just 2 million added appointments to the NHS specifically by this government. When the Tories, listen, I'm coming to the GPs, thank you very much. It's on my note if you don't mind waiting. Thank you. I'll come to the GP, I promise, for the record. For what they have done, 2 million appointments have been created by this Labour government, and this government is trying to do its best to not only lift the country where it's been living in the ruins, but to make sure that Britain will become a shining country. About the GPs, £26 million investment has been put into the health service, and that is supporting 8 of the GPs locally, and my fellow councillor knows about it, I'm sure, and he doesn't. I'm happy to brief him, even to organise a meeting with a member of parliament. 8 GPs in our borough, minimum 8 or more, have been selected to be supported. And those GPs include, and supporting just financially as well, and to help the local GPs so that our community can remain healthy minds, healthy bodies, so that they can go to work and build this country to the best it can. Exmoor Street in my ward, Exmoor Surgery in my ward. Other includes Holland Park. I'm sure members of the Holland Park are here. Holland Park Surgery. Holland Park Surgery as well. North Kensington Community, North Kensington Medical Centre, Notting Hill Medical Centre, Portobello Medical Centre, Goulburn Medical Centre, and St Quintin Health Centre. What more would you want when you have the GPs being supported by this local government? For that note, this is a politically motivated motion and is ill-fated, and I will ask this council to make sure, and the Labour group of councillors, to turn it down. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
I'll go Councillor North, and then I'll come across the chamber. Councillor North.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I wasn't planning to speak either on this, but unfortunately I have been lobbied by residents of Camden Ward, and in particular the Senior Citizens Lunch Club that everybody needs to hear from. And I'm grateful to Councillor Hudd because she also listens to the senior citizens here. They have been acutely affected by this. This was not a Conservative Party policy. This was this government's choice to take the winter fuel allowance from their pensioners, and they were all affected by this, and now this jobs tax affects their care assistants. And this is something that was a choice by this government. It wasn't a previous government or one from 10 years ago or David Cameron or anybody else. This government has to own up to its choices. Its own members of Parliament are already rebelling on this. And for those of you waiting for that famous phrase, the U-turn, I think this lady, the Chancellor, should be for U-turning. Thank you.
Councillor Lindsay and then Councillor McVeigh. Councillor Lindsay.
Mr Mayor, attention was made to Liz Truss's failed budget, but it would be fair, I think, if people were to remember Gordon Goldfinger Brown and the way in which he sold tons and tons and tons of Britain's gold at a low price, forcing it to be low for a long period, and had that money been kept, given the high price of gold now, this country would not be in quite the same precarious predicament that it's in. I say no more. But many people across the borough, rich and poor, were affected and will continue to be affected by his ineptitude.
Councillor McVeigh.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and welcome to your new role. It's very nice to see you up there. This government cannot keep hammering businesses. It's a simple fact of life. If there are no businesses, there are no jobs, and then there are no tax receipts to fund this ever-expanding state. And sadly, I'm standing here in my housing role because I see firsthand the impact of when companies lay off staff. I mean, Councillor Hammond's statistics were absolutely sobering and incredibly depressing. But sadly, it means when someone loses their job, they can no longer afford to pay the rent. So they will turn to the council for help. And luckily, us in our housing team, we have a very good prevention team. We have one of the best prevention measures across London. But there is only so much we can do. And we do not need the government creating unemployment. This is not what a government should be doing. They need to be providing businesses so people can get their jobs. They need to leave businesses alone. They need to let businesses flourish, let them employ people, and let people get on with their own lives. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Would any other members like to speak on this motion? No, in which case I now invite Councillor Kamali as the lead member to respond to the debate for up to 5 minutes.
Mr. Mayor, thank you. It's so reassuring to hear such strong Conservative voices from behind me this evening. It's really reassuring to know that they do still exist out in society, and they are pointing out the errors of this Labour government's ways. We've seen what the Liberal Democrat Prime Minister Liz Truss did to the economy, and we are now seeing what the Labour government are doing to this economy. Unemployment up, GDP growth slashed, debt borrowing costs higher than under Liz Truss. So they may want to point the finger back to the Conservatives, but they now need to turn it around and point it at themselves. It is absolutely the wrong approach. And I just curiously was looking back at when gilt prices were where they were, and it took me all the way back to the Napoleonic Wars. And I saw there that a quote of, never interrupt your enemy when they're making mistakes. But we must interrupt our enemy. We must intervene. We cannot continue to watch them hammer our residents, hammer our businesses, and hammer the people that actually create wealth in this country. We're already seeing many residents leave this nation because they simply cannot function under this Labour government. They will take their jobs and the investments with them. We need to make this country and this borough a place where people want to invest, they want to set up businesses, and they want to employ our local residents and the people that need employment the most here in KNC. So I join my colleagues. I will have a slightly different title since I've taken over from Councillor Thalasitis, but with that new title, we have the same ambition to make sure that we do stop Labour in their tracks and we do make them see sense. Another Napoleonic quote is, of course, that stupidity is no handicap in politics. So I leave that with you, Mr. Mayor, and we must make sure that we vote on this motion tonight and write that letter to our government and put them back in their place. Thank you.
Councillor Hudd, as mover of the motion, would you like to respond for up to 5 minutes?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And my congratulations, by the way. It was bad form. I will start by just roughly recapping what my excellent colleagues have observed. Councillor Hammond, on his personal journey with his mother, I would have been in a similar position if my mother had been around, who passed away last year. So I'm very pleased on that front because the cost of care and the impact of this tax is incredibly detrimental. He mentions the increase in unemployment, vacancies, the decrease of, in payroll. Then we have, I have made notes and I have, there I am. Councillor Randall, who mentions the impact of health services, GPs. Absolutely, and GPs, Councillor Ali said that you mentioned a lot of GP services, but the ones you mentioned are reasonably bigger size ones. So maybe the impact on them might not be as huge. But small GP practices, I could not agree more with Councillor Randall that they are small businesses, they become SMEs, and the impact of this tax will be detrimental, and I think it will force smaller GPs to close. And the BMA have not, why the GPs not been exempt? Councillor Simmons mentions Brexit, but I'm a tad baffled that she hasn't exactly failed to really address the motion itself and acknowledged the negative impact of this increase. Councillor Evans puts it perfectly, and I sit on the licensing committee, and yes, we hear it every time. The hospitality industry, besides many other industries, has been ailing since COVID years, and it was just about recovering. But now this increase will have a huge impact and bring it, and it will impact lots of service, etc. Councillor Jedid, you acknowledge the negative impact, so thank you for that. Councillor Schmetterling, you highlight the impact on charities, and it's a staggering figure that you have mentioned. Again, it's the same thing. The message across the board is staff retention, poor quality, poor services. And Councillor Ali, I've already addressed you. You blame the Conservatives, but you're in power now. So, you know, going forward, you are the ones who are in the chair, and you need to make the decisions. Councillor North, it's absolute yes, and you're absolutely right. Our elderly are very worried about their care packages. So, all in all, it is a huge negative impact. But one thing I would like to mention is that what we forget, or what the government has forgotten, is the employers will be forced to employ people on zero-hour contracts, which is, again, not protecting their employees. They will not be given any benefits, any holidays, which is just wrong as a society. Where is the social capital in that? So it is, it would be remiss of me to say that if I'm really hoping that my colleagues on the opposition will support the motion and appreciate that this impacts everyone, especially the people in real need. And I hope they will really support the motion. Thank you.
I now put the motion to the vote. Would those for the motion please show? Would those against the motion please show? Are there any abstentions? I declare the motion carried. Motion 2 is about the use of some pension fund money for temporary accommodation. I'm deferring discussion of this item until after the matter has been considered by the Investment Committee. Motion 3 is about step-free access at South Kensington Station. Would Councillor Wheel formally move the motion and Councillor Idris please second?
I beg to move, Mr. Mayor.
I now invite Councillor Wheel to speak for up to 5 minutes.
Thank you. The case for step-free access for both lines at South Kensington Station is clear and obvious, but I'm not going to let that stop me from rehearsing the arguments, given the opportunity to stand on my hind legs. South Ken is truly the nexus, or a nexus, of culture in the capital. And visitors from all ages and all stages, from buggy to wheelchair users, are attracted to the area. But currently, the station fails them absolutely woefully. And it's estimated that as many as 500,000 thwarted journeys a year. In other words, people who would go to South Ken because it's the most convenient stop for them are forced to go to stations either side where there are lifts and step-free access, and walk or and come back to where they want to be. What a way to treat our visitors, and indeed to treat our residents. The council leader and lead member have mounted an extremely constructive and powerful campaign to support this cause, including pledging £12 million of the council's money towards this aim. And it's extremely disappointing that Westminster Council have failed to show the same commitment to a project that would be of enormous benefit to their own residents as well in the south of their borough, and also to users of their own facilities such as Imperial College and the Royal Parks. On a slightly more positive note, the recent communications from TfL signal a slight change in the mood music, it seems to be much more hopeful that they now understand and acknowledge the need for step-free access for both lines at the station. And given the fact that they've just been awarded £2.2 billion in the latest spending review for capital projects over the next 3 years, we should be hopeful that this is going to happen. However, it's not reflected in their current 3-year business plan, and I think that must be of real concern to us. So I urge the leader and Councillor Thalasides to continue to pressure TfL to make a watertight, funded commitment to both lines and to continue to urge Westminster to step up to their responsibilities.
Councillor Idris, would you like to speak?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I am proud to second this motion because it speaks to something very simple, very basic: fairness. South Kensington Station is a gateway to London's Museum Quarter. It is not just a busy transport hub. It is how families get to the Natural History Museum, how school groups reach the Science Museum, how tourists discover our cultural heart, and how residents go about their daily lives. And yet, 500,000 journeys every year are missed because this station is not accessible. Let that sink in. 500,000 people shut out totally. People with mobility challenges, older Londoners, parents with buggies, tourists with luggage, all forced to take long, tiring detours to give up altogether. This is not just inconvenient, it is unjust. We are not talking about a luxury, we are talking about basic, equal access to public transport in one of London's most visited cities. It is 2025, and South Kensington, one of London's most iconic stations, still not step-free. That is not just outdated, it is actually embarrassing. Now, this council has stepped up. We have pledged up to 12 million. That is about 10% of the full amount. That's real money. That's real commitment. So, I want to ask, and I want every Londoner to ask, where is the Mayor of London? This is a mayor who calls himself a champion of equality, a mayor who says he stands for all Londoners, a mayor who approved bulky and popular redevelopment of this station, but still will not commit to step-free access. So let me ask plainly, Mr. Mayor, not you, the other one, are you going to do right by the people of London or not? Because the time for photo ops and platitudes is over. This is a test of priorities, a test of leadership. We are asking you, no, we are expecting you to step up. South Kensington must be for everyone. That includes elderly. This includes disabled Londoners. That includes every person who deserves the right to travel with dignity. Let's make it happen. Thank you.
I'll now open the motion up to debate. A number of councillors have indicated that they wish to speak, starting with Councillor Rendell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm pleased to be third again. Somehow that's come to pass tonight. But thank you. I'd like to thank, obviously, my colleagues from Brompton Handstown for speaking so eloquently about their station and their ward, but it affects everyone. As Councillor Will says, this affects everyone who visits London. It's not just those residents who live here, but it's an international centre of importance. But, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to touch on a separate, slightly element on that tonight. So every year, 500,000 journeys are not made through South Kensington due to accessibility issues. That's 500,000 people, residents, visitors, that cannot use that part of the world due to its lack of step-free access. As we've said, the station provides access to world-class museums, leading universities, Royal Albert Hall and parks, and also, Mr. Mayor, what I'd like to touch base on is vital hospitals. Mr. Mayor, speaking as a Stanley Ward councillor who represents these hospitals and also as the lead member, South Kensington is the closest station to the Royal Marsden Hospital, the Royal Brompton Hospital, and the Chelsea and Westminster Hospital. These are not small institutions, but major national health centres of health and well-being. Take the Royal Marsden, Mr. Mayor. It's ranked in the top 5 of cancer hospitals in the world, treating 59,000 people every year. On the Royal Brompton, Mr. Mayor, on Sydney Street, this is the largest heart and lung hospital in the UK, doing some incredible world-leading research and treatment. And plus, the Chelsea and Westminster Hospital, kind of the more universal hospital, Mr. Mayor, it's got a huge maternity wing. It also has a world-renowned burn service, which leads London and the South East, if not the entire country. Centres of medical excellence in our borough, but this is unreachable, I should say, by public transport for those who need it the most. This is really not tolerable. It cannot be right that patients are forced to rely on expensive taxis or the kindness of friends and family to make appointments about operations, checkups, and consultations. Allowing this to continue is not on for our most vulnerable residents. So, Mr. Mayor, as my colleagues have said, I really welcome the Council's £12 million to make step-free access at South Kensington a reality. Yeah. When we want to be a fairer borough, we mean it. With this significant financial commitment, we are going beyond warm words and committing to real change, a tangible product of what it means to be a fairer borough. But, Mr. Mayor, we can't do this alone, as already alluded to. Government works best when it works together, and therefore I'm really pleased that our leader, Councillor Campbell, has written to Westminster City Council asking them to join us in this project. However, as expected, and as we saw from the Evening Standard report, their response was disappointing, perhaps not surprising from this Labour-run authority. Much like Oxford Street, Mr. Mayor, wonderful at warm words, but missing in action when acting on behalf of their residents. There is always time to reconsider, and I hope Westminster are willing to open their doors for us again. In the meantime, though, this council wants to continue to prioritise our residents and make this borough much fairer. That's what it means to be the best. Thank you.
Councillor Simmons.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The arguments put forward by Councillors Wheel and Idris also apply to other stations in our borough, including Ladbroke Grove, the access for our international destination of Portobello Road. In 2022, the Department for Levelling Up in the Conservative government refused an application by RBKC officers to the Levelling Up Fund for step-free access at Ladbroke Grove Station. Despite a unique, if rather shameful, relationship between RBKC and the then Conservative government, I did not see any motion from Councillor Wheel calling on the Conservative Rishi Sunak's government to step up and ensure that commitments made to the North Kensington community were honoured. What I did see then was our deputy leader saying, "I don't see why we should pay for it." So it is interesting and pleasant to see the council is now willing to contribute 10% of the costs towards South Kensington step-free access. Is that in recognition of the cumulative effects of successive Conservative governments starving the Labour Mayor of London's budget to the bone while helping their friends to billions in, for example, COVID contracts? It's a question. As for the persistent and predictable silliness on that side of the chamber about the Mayor of London from supposed grown-ups who should know better, wheeling out this tired old trope is lazy, tiresome, puerile, and worst of all, intellectually dishonest. It reflects very badly on you and on the leadership of this council. Our residents deserve better. I will close by saying I support this motion to work with all partners to bring about step-free access at South Ken, because it's good for residents, it's good for businesses and visitors alike, and because working together helps foster respect, a thing that is far too often lacking in some quarters over there. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor McVeigh.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And thank you very much to my fellow ward councillors for bringing this motion. It's because it's in their ward they have brought this motion, just in case anyone didn't know where South Kensington was. But I have to say it is rather extraordinary that we are having to debate this, that we're having to bring pressure on TfL to get on with it, to get on and do their job. One of their TfL's remit is to provide an accessible transport system so London can function. And so as a council, why are we doing this? Very good question, when actually we have an awful lot of demands on our finances. But we have, as a council, done what we have already. So back in 2023, we pledged money for step-free access when this rather controversial development went through our planning committee. But I just want to remind people that years ago, 7 years ago, in 2018, we as a council, our planning authority, approved plans to upgrade the ticket hall and the station capacity for this station. And has it been done? No. I was there yesterday, exactly the same. And everyone's talked about people struggling to get there, elderly people and everything. It is a disaster. But let's be very, very clear about where responsibility lies. Sadiq Khan in TfL has a £200 million budget for station improvements. Has he chosen Ladbroke Grove? No. Has he chosen South Kensington? No. He has chosen various out-of-London boroughs, outer, not out of London, but outer London boroughs, to do step-free access. So it's perfectly within his ability to do this, but he has chosen not to do this. So it needs to be done. And thank you to our leader. We are showing others how to do it. We are showing our commitment to doing this for our residents, for our visitors, for everybody that needs to have this access. So, just to say, we are stepping up for step-free.
Councillor Nuhr.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think we all agree that free access is essential in this borough and all London. Those who need most, especially those who have got disabilities with children, deserve to have that access. Free access or step-free access will contribute to the growth of the economy and it will create local jobs. Mr. Mayor, South Kensington has already benefited from multiple transport links, but Ladbroke Grove in North Kensington serves everyday Londoners who rely on this travel to work, to school, hospital appointment, and not just museums. Mr. Mayor, the council has kindly donated or allocated 12 million. As it says, that's 10% of the cost. Where will the rest of the money come from? We know we're expecting TFL to raise that money. TFL is recovering from financially after a pandemic. We cannot demand step-free access without offering realistic funding and practical solutions. Secondly, we must remember that Boris Johnson, and lately Prime Minister, when he was mayor, he cancelled step-free plans at 6 stations, including Ladbrokes, when already 3 million has been spent on lifts. Under Sadiq Khan as a mayor, more stations have become step-free. Unfortunately, not in our borough, South Kent and Ladbrokes. He protected accessibility funding even during TFL's toughest financial crisis. I just want to say, let's work towards fairer borough-wide approach to accessibility based on need, not headlines, and let's avoid turning this debate or motion into political point scoring. Mr. Mayor, I would like to conclude by saying we shall all support step-free access, regardless of which part of the borough the station is in. Thank you very much.
Councillor Isse.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of the chamber. Mr. Mayor, I support this fatal motion for step-free access at South Kensington Station. South Kensington Station is not just a busy stop station on the network. It is a key transport hub in our borough and one of the most significant stations in London. It serves as a gateway to some of the capital's most iconic and treasured institutions, from world-class museums to leading universities and cultural landmark centers. But, Mr. Mayor, despite this importance, the station remains largely inaccessible for many of our residents and visitors, especially disabled people, older residents, parents, families, and young children, and anyone facing mobility challenges. And in today's modern London, that is simply unacceptable. Mr. Mayor, step-free access is not a luxury. It is a basic right. It represents dignity, independence, and equal opportunity. And it represents a city that truly includes every person, a freedom to move around our city safely with confidence, not just for able people or privileged. Mr. Mayor, while residents continue to wait for this basic infrastructure essential improvement, we are seeing troubling decisions made in other parts of our borough, decisions that benefit private developers far from the public. The Mayor of London, Mr. Sadiq Khan, is backing a high-rise development at 100 Kensington of West Cromwell Road. Plan is that money in our borough believe is unsafe, unwanted, and completely out of character with the surrounding area. Mr. Mayor, it's deeply frustrating to see how quickly these commercial projects are pushed through. Projects which benefit developers are being fast-tracked, while long overdue fundamental improvements like step-free access of South Kensington Station are left behind. The needs of disabled residents, elderly people, and families must come before commercial gain. We must ask ourselves, what message are we sending to the people we represent? Do we value profit over people? Do we prioritize tall towers, high-rise building over accessible transport? Or do we, as a borough, stand up for fairness, for inclusive, for the right of every resident to move around their city safely, confidently, and with dignity? Mr. Mayor, this is a matter of values and of priorities. Today, we have an opportunity to act in the public interest and make the borough thoroughly accessible for all. Once again, Mr. Mayor, it is time we put residents first. Let us support this motion. I thank to the colleagues and push for a borough that is not only growing, but growing with fairness, dignity, and inclusive at its core. Thank you.
Councillor Ali.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Labour Group of Councillors, Members of Parliament, I'm sure for Kensington and Bayswater, as he has campaigned before Joe Powell, as well as Chelsea and Fulham, we all have been supporting local communities when it comes to access, step-free access. And I'm really pleased that our Member of Parliament, Joe Powell, was the only person, as a Member of Parliament for Kensington and Bayswater, to put together all the stakeholders for this issue under one roof to make sure that decisions are made. And I'm sure the council leadership will not deny this, because they were part of that. And for that reason, I think it's about time to thank those who are not just the decision makers, but the campaigners to get step-free access. Why are we supporting, you may say? Obviously, we're the part of growth, business, and local community. And everyone should have equal opportunity, whether it's you want to see sightseeing in Kensington and Chelsea, or whether you want to see something particularly in South Kensington, or, as my colleagues mentioned, in Ladbroke Grove, north of the borough. It should be equally treated and equally supported, access to all members of our residents and beyond, those who are coming to our borough and spending money. The word that I would like to repeat what Councillor Sophie McFay said earlier, we are showing others how to do it. That actually triggered a question for me. For that reason, I would like, if you may ask me, I know you cannot ask questions, but if I were to ask a question to the lead member, or the lead members, or leader of the council for this matter, the Conservatives have been in power for this borough since its foundation. Why didn't they not get it right all this time? Why didn't they not campaign for it? They had a successive local Labour as well as the Conservative governments in London, in the borough and in government. Technically, they're coming on board now because they see the direction of travel. This Labour government, supported by local MPs and London Sadiq Khan, Sir Sadiq Khan, if I may remind everyone, Sir Sadiq Khan is trying to make sure to support the Londoners across the borough, and South Kensington will be our target to support. And for that reason, I'll give the heckles later on time. For that reason, I think it's about time to come together, as others have said, and to support this motion. Obviously, we, the Labour group of councillors, are growing our politics. We do grow our politics, and we support when the right team does. But however, they can never, ever accept when they are wrong, and that's why we apologise on their behalf earlier. On that note, Mr. Mayor, if I may just continue, on that note, I'm really pleased that the council is catching up with the reality that the London under Sir Sadiq Khan and the Labour councillors are moving in the right direction. And finally, good to hear the London Council, the Royal Borough of Kensington and Chelsea is putting £12 million, or 10% for that matter. We will support and will make sure to campaign alongside with you to get the funding to support our constituents. If only you can think about like the way we think and support all our residents, including the North Kensington, as well as getting Ladbroke Grove step-free access. Finally, Mr. Mayor, we are the part of growth, equal opportunities, equal access, and therefore we're happy to support this motion of step-free. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah. Thank you.
Councillor Hammond.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and it's always a pleasure to follow Councillor Ali, and I must say how delighted I am that he and his group are supporting us this evening. And as he's so pally with the Mayor, Sir Sadiq Khan, maybe he would like to text Sir Sadiq now and ask him to cough up the money. And I mean, it is a pleasure also to speak on this motion proposed by two of my ward neighbours, Brompton and Handstown, and the third member has spoken tonight. Of course, Courtfield Ward, part of Courtfield Ward overlooks South Kensington Station, so we have a stake in the station, and it's step-free as well. I live halfway between Gloucester Road and South Kent, so I use it very regularly. I know just how busy it gets and how difficult the accessibility is. Mr Mayor, as you will no doubt remember, when you were on the Planning Committee towards the end of 2019, I appeared before you in a full chamber to speak against the around station development that had been proposed for South Kensington. I was speaking amongst several other people, but on behalf of all 6 ward councillors for Brompton and Handstown and Courtfield, and on behalf of the 2,000 plus people who had objected. I'm very glad to say that I persuaded you, sir, and your colleagues to vote the right way that night and to reject the monstrous proposals that would do such harm to our conservation area with the 4 dreadful buildings that are completely discordant to the South Kensington area. Very sadly, and I think everybody was disappointed that the Planning Inspectorate overturned your decision and the Planning Committee's decision on appeal. And we recognise that that's final. We are where we are. And of course, nothing's happened yet due to the lack of money. But one of the elements of the scheme, as well as the 4 terrible buildings above ground, was a proposal for partial step-free access to the District and Circle line only, but not the Piccadilly line. Of course, even at the time, I had to recognise that that was a benefit. It wasn't as much benefit as we wanted, because we wanted the Piccadilly line as well. But of course there is a planning balance, and that was part of the balance in favour of the proposal, and the Planning Inspectorate did place great weight on even the partial step free. I'm very glad, however, that the Council has put this money in and up front to get full step free access, because we've been calling for step-free access for many years. I remember when Councillor Ali was elected, but I know that I and my colleagues have been calling for this before his time, for full step-free access at South Kensington, and our predecessors going back many, many years. And of course, it's not a borough matter generally. So it was really a very generous offer on behalf of this borough to put up such a substantial amount of money to try and get this massive win in step-free access at what is, I think, London's 13th busiest underground station, and one that really does need to be prioritised for step-free access. And of course, I also support step-free at Ladbroke Grove and other stations as well. But tonight's motion is about South Kensington. It would be my hope that, having put up this very substantial amount of money, I mean 10% of the cost, that we can perhaps get some leverage out of that and maybe persuade the developers, if they ever come forward with their proposal, to drop some of the more egregious elements of their planning application. Not all 4 of the buildings are actually relevant to step-free access. Thurlow Street is, that's critical, but the Bullnose, which is probably the bit that most residents really disliked, is one of the least profitable parts of the development, at least it was in 2019, and it has no bearing on the step-free whatsoever. So I think developers could be perhaps persuaded to drop that bit and do just the parts of the development that they've got planning permission for, that are A, profitable, and B, do contribute towards step-free. And this slug of money that the borough has and this Conservative Council has pledged is a big step towards trying to get this moving, because we do need step-free at the station, as all my colleagues have said. So I completely and wholeheartedly support this motion, and I'm sure my 2 Courtfield colleagues would join me in that. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Jeddett.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I am very grateful for this motion, because it just shows to some degree hypocrisy. Let me just read some parts of the petition. 5th of April 2022, Felicity Bishon, in Royal Borough of Kensington and Chelsea. Sign my petition. As MP, I want to see step-free access to 2 tube stations in Kensington, South Kensington Station and Ladbroke Grove. I am glad that Kensington and Chelsea Council is committing to contribute 7.5 million of council funds toward each of the project. How come we are able to commit 3 years ago and now we are committing £12 million and we are not thinking about Ladbroke Grove? I'll give you, Mr. Mayor, example. Dalgano Ward has about 7,000 residents, most living on council estates, and residents have mobility issues. It's well documented. Not taking care of Ladbroke Grove is just simply hypocritical. Reading further, I am asking the London Mayor, Sadiq Khan, to support those projects and asking TfL to prioritise them in the capital commitments based on proximity to hospitals, hospital obviously mentioned here, and the world-class tourist attractions. Those stations should be a clear priority for free access, step-free access. South Kensington is one of the busiest stations in London, with close to 34 million passengers passing through its gates each year. The station provides access to 3 major national museums, as well as respect and prestigious universities, Imperial College, Royal Albert Hall, which all create huge benefit for London's economy, exactly what we both mentioned here. South Kensington currently is nearest tube station to 2 special hospitals, Euro Melsden and Royal Bromptons, where Ladbroke Grove is a close proximity to St. Charles Hospital. I am very disappointed that whoever thought about South Kensington, and obviously there are 2 councillors here, Councillor Gardner and Councillor McGovern, who've been a senior councillor for a very long time before Grenfell, was not thinking about poor residents in Dalgan or in North Kensington and those who suffered from Grenfell as well. It's really disappointing. To read further, step-free access at Ladbroke Grove Station is important. So you, as a Conservative at that time, MP and councillors, recognize that Ladbroke Grove is very important for our residents, traveling from south to north because of special treatments our St. Charles Hospital provides. And we have here another statement. It is one of the key stations for Notting Hill Carnival and Portobello Market. It will provide 334,000 people who live within 1 kilometre of the station equal access and opportunity. So you were able to reflect about equal access and opportunities, and in 2025 you commit £12 million, which you're supposed to think about Ladbroke Grove as well. So more or less, whatever you meant to commit for both stations, 7.5, you shipped it to the south. And Labour, obviously, vote Labour, get Tories, don't really think that way. I'm very disappointed, but obviously it is something from blockies throwing money from the local residents to obviously clapping hands together. Therefore, I urge Lady of London and Transport for London to work with Royal Borough, Kensington and Chelsea to deliver step-free. So I am very grateful for this motion because really it exposes hypocrisy. Hypocrisy. There was a petition in 2022 and now Labour has no guts to stand up for own residents who voted for you and gave you the powers to represent you. So from my perspective, I cannot support you. If you take care of residents in North, if you commit 7.5 million, towards one and another, you have my support as a Workers' Party for Britain. I cannot support you now. Thank you.
Would any other members like to speak on this? Councillor Lane.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And may I also say it is a pleasure to see you in that chair for the first time at full council since mayor making. Absolute pleasure. I'm enjoying life back on the backbenches. I just want to make 3 quick points. The first is, in terms of accessibility, just to touch upon mothers with pushchairs. As many of you know, was raised by a single mum. I do always remember her saying how tough it was not having someone else there, not having a father or someone to help you with the pushchair as you got upstairs. Lots of people don't offer to help when someone is at the bottom with a pushchair, and kids often not behaving themselves. So just to make that point, in addition to all of the others that have been made in favour of step 3. I think the second point I would make is we've talked about people being excluded from visiting the museums, from visiting so many of the sites around South Kensington, but I think it's also worth talking about the people who would make car journeys instead, and the number of added cars on the road if people are not able to use public transport. We all want less cars on the road. We all want to be greener. So as well as the equality reasons for having step 3, I think there's also really green reasons for having step 3 in terms of taking cars off the road. The final point I would make is it's not just those visiting our museums, visiting the Royal Albert Hall, visiting the Royal College of Music, but it's the people studying there, the people working there. If we want those artistic institutions to be diverse and to have people who may not be as mobile as we're lucky to be, having step 3 at South Kensington would make a massive difference. I dare say it might affect whether some people, if they do have mobility issues, choose to study at the Royal College of Music or choose to study at Imperial because of having step 3 there at South Kensington Station. So I would just say to the other mayor, Mayor Khan, please spend less time comparing how hard you work to the King and more time actually serving the residents of London that you are so privileged and lucky to be able to serve. Please, Mayor Khan, listen to us here tonight and put up the money for step 3 at South Kensington. Thank you.
Councillor Pascal.
Mr Mayor, just a few facts. South Kensington has roughly 5 times the traffic per annum than the average tube station in London. It has more traffic going through it than Venice or Terminal 5. And those venues usually have step-free access. I think it's embarrassing that South Kensington does not. And speaking as a governor of both a local hospital and a local borough school, primary school, it really needs to have step-free access for those who need step-free. Thank you.
Councillor North.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I just want to offer a political olive branch this evening because I think I've got the solution, and it would help Notting Hill Carnival, it would help Brompton and Hansdown, it would help North Kensington. It's a very simple solution, and Sir Sadiq, oh, sorry, I nearly choked on that. Sir Sadiq could easily sell the police station that he closed a number of years ago and use that money towards this, and it's a win-win for North Kensington, it's a win for the Carnival, and it's a win for everybody. So why doesn't he just, instead of procrastinating and probably putting off a decision until after May next year, sell the police station, use the money to help the community? Thank you.
Councillor Benton.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just an impromptu one. And I think we're all in agreement about the necessity of step 3. I was slightly confused by which way my independent colleague is going on this, but I will just like to avoid this sort of sinking into just another rhetorical political point, and just to say that actually my independent colleague did bring up the difference in funding between the two stations. I understand they're different and they have different needs. I will speak also personally. Also thank you, Councillor Lane, for being the first to mention the Royal College, I think, because that's closer to my heart than the other museums. But anyway, I was also raised by a single mother. She's, since she has been suffered severe mobility issues. She has not been able to get to the hospital via public transport at all in the last sort of 15 years, just shy of 15 years. I just want to hammer home this point, and I do really entreat our colleagues who want to put up, and strip to the studs, this motion says, call on the leader and Council Thursday to keep up the pressure on stakeholders. I just really implore us all to keep that pressure up in any way that can help us to give the same treatment to Ladbroke Grove, because that will make a huge difference as well, especially if we want to prioritise, you know, hospital visits. So thank you.
Would any other member like to speak? No. In which case, I call on Councillor Taylor-Smith as the lead member to respond to the debate for up to 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and again, my congratulations. So it's a really great pleasure to conclude this debate on making South Kensington step-free access, and I'm doing this on behalf of Councillor Thalassis. And we've had some fantastic contributions from colleagues, and I very much hope the Mayor of London has heard loud and clear the overwhelming support that we have for this project. We've also had some fantastic contributions from our Labour Party, and I'm really pleased to see that the Labour of the Labour Party is clearly moving a little bit away from buses, more towards tubes. So I'm going to have to change my cliche that I use you. We've also had some fairly fantastic inaccuracies as well, touched with a little bit of hypocrisy. Ladbroke Grove Station, first of all, Councillor Jedford, it's closed during Notting Hill Carnival, but it will be very useful, obviously, when Notting Hill Carnival isn't running. Secondly, Councillor Simmons, it's not in Mary's ward. It's not anything to do with it. Now, we do actually have a fund, which we have in the capital reserve for step-free access, which isn't dedicated to individual stations. And I think the point that's been made clear about Ladbroke Grove, it's an important station. And like all of our stations, we should be championing them anyway. So, Mr. Ware, this has been a very, pardon the pun, long journey, and this project's running back to the previous planning application. Colleagues in this chamber were clear that TfL's proposals were lacklustre, and the step-free was entirely unfitting to the area in terms of its design, and the residents agreed with us. But TfL wouldn't listen, and they railed it through, Mr. Mayor, and we ended up gaining approval for a large oversight development that generated a lovely profit for the developer native land, but no step access on the Piccadilly line, and we were truly getting the worst of both worlds. Transport for London were not serious about bringing step-free access to the 13th busiest station on the network, and this council made that very clear. And the Mayor of London proudly states that he will make 50% of all the stations on this network step-free. And yes, we can champion Ladbroke Grove on that one. But, Mr. Mayor, when you look at where these new step-free access stations are, something becomes very clear. We have Leighton, Colindale, Northolt, Sudbury Hill, and even Cockfosters at the end of the Piccadilly line. But important stations locally, I'm sure, but hardly the ones of national significance and things that drive this borough. So the Mayor was taking a very easy route, prioritizing the low-hanging fruit, rather than the stations that would really make a difference. And what is wrong was we told TfL that how wrong this was. And, Mr. Mayor, our approach worked. In April 25, Knightsbridge opened as a fully step-access station, and then on to South Kensington. Transport for London got back around the table, thanks to also the acknowledgement to our local MP, and the proposals for step-free access station, including an updated concourse on all lines. So, a victory for all residents, championed by the council and the ward councillors, with assistance, obviously, from the MP. But can I just pause to say that we've asked assistance for our MP on this. We've talked about saving our post offices. We've talked about contribution to Notting Hill Carnival tonight. All of these things are very important. So this mustn't be a Photoshop opportunity. This must be about getting real support from the government for this borough. So it's a victory for our local residents. But, Mr. Mayor, this came with a big bill. TfL claimed that they needed another 100 million to incorporate the Piccadilly line, where there's already a lift shaft, into and to proceed. Now, we recognise that we now have a role in getting this delivered, and I'm pleased to say that we have backed this scheme with an increased commitment that's been repeated here of £12.5 million, a significant financial commitment backing our residents, businesses and institutions, and helping to deliver the full step access that we have long called for. But, Mr. Ware, it's now for others to do likewise. I think all in this chamber should share my disappointment that the refusal of the Labour-run council not to contribute to this collective effort. South Kensington Station may just be within our borough, but the importance to the residents and the businesses of Westminster is clear, and it is a great shame that the Labour keep letting down their residents. Mr Mayor, Westminster City Council has let us down, but I hope the Labour Mayor will not let us down, and I hope we lobby him not to do so. So TfL have secured, as been said, £2.2 billion from the government for capital projects, and their developer, Native Land, is due to make a healthy profit from this development. So, when we attended the round table with the Minister of the project, Native Land didn't even turn up, you'll remember, and the developer needs to be serious about step 3.
Could I ask you to conclude now, please?
Very quickly. Mr Mayor, the ball is in their court. They need to see the need. They need to see the support. They can see our contribution, and we need to get on with this because it's a home to London's cultural centre, world-class hospitals, universities and royal parks. And I commend the motion. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
I now invite Councillor Wheel, as mover of the motion, to respond to the debate for up to 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'll be very brief. So many people have contributed so eloquently to this debate. I don't think I can possibly name you all. I was scribbling them all down and have filled a vast sheet of paper. But many people emphasised the importance of this particular location. And of course, the reason that I and Councillor Idris have raised this particularly is that it's in our ward. And our residents are going to suffer from a monstrous carbuncle in the centre of our ward. And step-free access seems like it was unbelievable that step-free access wasn't at least the quid pro quo for such a monstrous carbuncle. And therefore, we raise this. It doesn't in any sense undermine my support for step-free access at all other stations, but it is our ward, it is unfortunately our carbuncle, and therefore we felt the need to raise it. People have made so many interesting and additional contributions, and I really thank Josh for bringing out the aspect of the health service, because of course that is a really, the people who can the least mobile, find it least easy to travel, are also utterly compromised by this. I have to admit that when my children were small, sort of 4 and 2, I did use the museums as a wet weather playground. I mean, what a glorious place to take your children when there's nothing else to do. It's raining outside. You can go to the museums. You can look at a dinosaur or a bit of science equipment and while away an hour. And what a luxury. I had that luxury because I live round the corner and I could wheel the buggy round there. And the fact that it's denied to so many other mothers or made so difficult for other parents and for wheelchair users really is a crying shame. So I just want to round off by thanking everybody again for their contributions, urging the leadership team to continue to get TfL just to put it in their business plan so that we all know that it really is going to happen. Not just warm words, actual commitment and pressing Westminster to do the decent thing. Thank you.
I now put the motion to the vote. Would those for the motion please show? Would those against the motion please show? Are there any abstentions? In which case I declare the motion carried. Ask the whips now, would they like to extend the meeting?
Mr Mayor, I think we should move to appointments, if that's okay.
Very good. Item 14. The Conservative Group has tabled some appointments as set out in the agenda pack. Councillor Addenbrooke, you have an additional nominee for the Licensing Committee, is that correct?
That's correct, Mr Mayor. It's Councillor Soft McVeigh. Thank you.
Are there any other nominees? No. In which case, are the appointments approved? I confirm that those are approved. Item 15, urgent business. There is no urgent business. So that concludes the business of this evening's meeting of the Council. The next meeting of the Council is scheduled to be held on the 16th of July 2025, starting at 6:30 p.m. Good evening.